One of the most frequently asked questions that I get on a daily basis is, how's the market doing? Before we enter that question, I want to recap where we have been the last few years. 2020 and 2021 were explosive years. Real estate prices increased at unsustainable levels. More hedge funds entered the market than ever before. 2022 was a different story. We reached the inflection point that we needed in order to stabilize prices. Some hedge funds went out of business, contracts were canceled at record levels, and it's helped us be in the position that we're in today in 2023. So what we can see by the numbers here in 2019 moving into 2020, right around March is where we saw COVID get introduced into the market. Interest rates increased out of control. We saw a really quick fear in the market, followed by a huge amount of demand. So part of the reason behind that is the fact that, again, some of our homes had to be schools because schools were closed. They were our gyms. So we had to do more activities at home than we've ever done before. A lot of employers enabled employees to work remotely from anywhere in the country, perhaps anywhere in the world. And so we saw this move to the downside in terms of inventory. In January, we got to pretty dangerous levels. As you can see here, about 4,600 units in the Tri-County area. And right around July is where we kind of met some resistance. So if you look at the numbers between July to November, you can see that inventory was relatively stable. This was primarily driven by the fact that interest rates more than doubled throughout the year. Then in December, we saw this pent-up demand absorb any of the inventory that was on the market. So we actually decreased about 1,200 units in December. So where we are now in January is we've seen inflation numbers not only inflect down now for 3 consecutive months, but we saw CPI reading as of this morning actually come in negative month over month. So that means that the Fed's push to really get inflation down has been working. So another point I want to illustrate is as inflation decreases, then interest rates decrease. As inflation increases, interest rates increase to apply more pain to the market. So in other words, the more pain there is, the less likely you are to spend money. So this chart is going to show the trend of the 10-year Treasury. In December, we did see a bit of an incline or increase in the 10-year Treasury. However, with inflation now being under control, we're starting to see that number trend downward. Anytime that you see this 10-year Treasury go under or below 2.75%, you are going to have huge buying pressure. So what this means is the market is preparing for a pretty big spring season, in my opinion. So dating back to October, you can see that the 10-year Treasury was sitting at about 4.23%, 4.25%, roughly. And now we're about 75 basis points lower than that. So that is going to stimulate more buying pressure. Our inventory, as illustrated by this graph here, is much lower than normal market levels. So if you take an average of 13,600 units and 16,265, it's somewhere around 15,000 or 14,800 units. We are well below that number right now. So if you have a decrease in interest rates, a lower amount of inventory, but more demand, then that's going to place upward pressure on prices. It only makes sense. So there are some hedge funds that still have money on the sidelines, ready to buy the dip, if there is one. But when you compare our market to markets like California, Arizona, and Idaho, we are a much more resilient market because we have no state income tax and people just want to relocate to Florida. So if you're considering a purchase this season, this year in 2023, I would certainly say with great certainty that the time is now to buy. So the next chart that I'm going to show you is the cyclical pattern for real estate transactions. This red line represents 2020. You can see the dip here during the COVID market. Again, the market got spooked on a temporary basis. The blue line would be 2019, which is a more typical market, and the black line is 2022. This dip that you see here was Hurricane Ian. So what typically happens during this time of year, and you can see the dates on here, ending date is January 19th. By the end of January, you see pending home sales skyrocket. We do not anticipate that this year will be any different. What we are hoping for is more inventory to ensure price stability. But again, if you are looking for a home, our recommendation is to get in sooner rather than later, because the longer that you wait, the more competition that you're going to have, and the more difficult or challenging that it is going to be to secure the home that you want. Right now, at your disposal, you have the advantage of requesting seller concessions. The seller concessions can be used towards your down payment, your closing costs, or your interest rate buy down. As we get into a more competitive environment, those opportunities that you have will no longer be there. So it is imperative, if you are interested in purchasing a home and really are looking for a company that can help you, or if you're selling a home and really understands the market conditions, give us a call, visit our website, shoot us a text, email, whatever it is, we would love to speak with you. Thank you very much.